Good afternoon and welcome to our Working with Grids in EZClaim Premier webinar. My name is Jamie and I'm going to be presenting your webinar today. And I just want to take a moment to thank everybody for joining. While I'm going through this demonstration, if you have any questions, please enter them into the question box, which is located on the right side of your screen. And all questions will be answered at the end of the presentation. Please understand that I can only answer program-related questions in this webinar. If you have specific issues you need help with or questions about other topics, please call us or send an email to support@EZClaim.com. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I've already shared my screen. So the first thing I like to show you is where you can find help and detailed information about the program. On our top ribbon bar, you will see the help icon. Clicking on here will open up our help system, and this icon is always available regardless of which screen you're on. You can browse through different topics, or you can search by keyword. I'm actually going to use our topic here and click on grids. I specifically wanted to bring this up because this is the information that I'm going to be going over today. So if you wanted a visual reference while you're working in the program, this would be a great resource for you. Okay, so I'm going to go back to our program. So one of the reasons Premier is such a powerful and customizable program is its use of grid technology. Premier is a SQL-based program, and so it makes extensive use of this grid technology, as a lot of other softwares out there do. A grid is just an Excel-like window that allows you to search and view your data, such as claims, patients, and payments. The grids are customizable to each user within the program as well. So where are grids within the Premier program? We find grids over here in our quick access panes, which are your patient pane over here at the top left corner. The claim tab next to that is also laid out in a grid, as well as the detail tab, claim, service, and payment tabs below here all have grid layouts. What we'll be using most today is our find fields. These all open up into a large grid. If you are in a claim, the service line layout is also in a grid format. And lastly, also our patient statement screen is in a grid layout. Now, because I'm just using demo data here, I don't actually have any patient statements that are ready. But one of the things that you can visually look for to know if what you're looking at is a grid is if you notice all of my column changers change color as I hover over them with the mouse. Again, this is just a good visual indicator that you can sort and filter your data or use any of the grid features. So what exactly are grids? I'm going to use most of my stuff here in our find claim. So the overall layout of a grid has 4 areas that I'll quickly point out. At the top is our group by area, which will allow you to group your data. So if we wanted to group our claims by primary payer, I can just take that column and move it up to this area. And I now have my claims grouped by their primary payer. To undo this, we can just bring the column right back down in line. There we are. So at the bottom, our second area is our footer area, which will show you any totals if you have a numeric column visible. And at the bottom left-hand corner, you'll always see a total of how many rows are showing. And back up at the top, our third and fourth areas, our filter row and our column headers. So as I stated earlier, the grids in Premiere are powerful tools, and one of the reasons that they are so powerful is that they are highly customizable. And they're very much like, they operate like an Excel spreadsheet as well. So if we wanted to move some columns around, we can rearrange these. If we wanted our billing physician up closer here, or if we wanted to take a field out, you can grab it with your mouse and move a column. If you drag it up, you will see a black X. When you see the X, you can drop the column in, it is gone. Now, this doesn't delete your data when you remove a column, it's just hiding it from your view. Now, if you want to add more columns, what you want to do is you want to right-click on one of the column headers. This will allow you access to your column chooser. And when you click on the column chooser, a small customization window opens that has a list of all of the other available columns for your grid. This is a scrollable alphabetical list, and you can also search by keyword up top here. To select one of these columns, you can double-click, and it will place it up in the grid, or you can drag and drop with your mouse. And when using your mouse, the program will display two white arrows when you can drop your selection. There we go. I'm going to close down the customization window. When you're in a grid, you can also sort your data by clicking on a column header. This will sort it in ascending or descending order. You can also enter letters or words into the filter row to filter your data. Just like I show there. Another way to filter your data is to use the column filter icon. So if you look carefully, when I'm on my rendering physician column, a small column or small icon is visible in the upper right-hand corner. Clicking on that will show you selections you have to choose from. Just say if you wanted to sort to just see claims for a certain rendering physician, you could do so just by clicking on their name, and you have a list of their claims. So as you can see, this is a very quick and easy way to query your data. But now what do you do after you have your desired data? Premiere will let you print, export, or save this query data for future reference. Once queried, just like we have our information here, we can right-click from a column header, and we can see we have different options down here at the bottom where we can print a grid, and you can also export it into, say, a PDF or Excel or some other various files. And one of our newer features is called Save Layout. And this will allow you to save the query data to recall easier next time. So I'm going to actually select Save Layout right here. And it's going to ask me to name this layout. Since I was filtering on my rendering provider, we're going to call it EZClaim. Those are just the rendering provider initials. And we're going to click OK. Now you can have unlimited save buttons. They are dynamic or real time. So when more claims are added that fit the criteria, they will display when I select my button again. You can move these if you have more than one, update them, and rename them at any time, just by right-clicking on the button. And quickly, to clear out of any filters, every grid will have an X up in the upper left-hand corner, which we can click to bring us back to our full grid at any time. Another feature within the grids, as well as being able to print, save, or export your data, is you can also create a widget. I'm actually going to filter my data a little bit. Let's say we wanted to create a widget for this grouping of claims. You can right-click and select Add a Widget. It's going to ask you to name it. You can also give it a small description. You can also determine how many rows of data it will show you, and select a click action. The number of rows is unlimited, although I would suggest putting in a limit. If you have a high number of rows here, say thousands or something, it does take quite a bit of processing power from your computer, so you just want to take that into consideration when you're building a widget. And now to see that, we can see our widgets on our Home tab here, which I'm going to click back to. And I have a new widget at the top here now labeled as EZClaim, displaying all of my claims. And real quickly, someone had asked me what the point of the widgets are here. They're really just to show you a glimpse of your data. Some people use them as work lists for the day. It kind of depends on how you have them saved up or how you have them built. There are default widgets within the program, such as our claims over 120 days. Some of the main thought behind these widgets is that you really want to have their count down to 1, or 0, I'm sorry. Just like how this shows that we have 7 claims here. A widget might be useful to showing you this data and that these are 7 claims you may want to follow up in as they are getting old in the aging. Maybe you're coming up against timely filing or something along those lines. So that's really the point of the widgets here, is to just display your data for you. Everything that we're doing here within the program pertaining to the grids and sorting and filtering and saving our layout using our Save Layout buttons, these are all user-specific actions, meaning that it's each user. If you wanted this done on all of your Premier workstations, it would have to be done for every user, except for the widgets. The widgets are company file-wide. So once you create a widget, all of the other users will be able to see them. Okay, so next I want to show you some of the bulk options that you can do with your data inside these grids. I'm going to take just a moment here to go up to my Find key, and I'm going to open up some more of my Find grids. There we are. So each of the grids has actions that are available by right-clicking on the data. And it's different depending on which grid that you're in. I'm actually going to start over here at the far left and go to our Find Patient. When you click on a row of data and you right-click on that information, you can see your bulk options. So in our Find Patient, we have the ability to change their status, whether they are active or inactive, create tasks, or access to our quick reports. The bulk actions you can do to multiple claims or patients at a time by simply highlighting the top one, holding the Shift key on your keyboard, and clicking the bottom. When you right-click on the selected items, you can do the action in bulk. So next in our Find Claim grid, we have the ability to change the claim status, write off selected claims, which will add an adjustment in to write off the claim. You can pay off a selected claim to allow you to enter in a payment, create tasks, or create claim notes, and again, access to quick reports. Up to our Find Service grid, we have the ability again to write off the service lines, which will put in an adjustment. You can also create a claim note and also change the responsible party of the claim. Again, these are all accessible just by right-clicking on your data. Over to Find Payment. In here, we're going to have the option to click on a payer. We can change the payer name or modify or disperse a payment. The payment that I happened to click on here was fully dispersed, so that option is grayed out for me. But if you pick on a payment with a remaining balance, you see that you do have the option to disperse or modify. Change payer name is grayed out if it's a patient payment. Next is onto our Find Task grid. And here we have the ability to mark the claim's progress, change the priority, change who it's assigned to, remove any reminders, or delete the task. And in our Find Adjustment grid, again, our right-click options are either write off the service line, create a task, create a claim note, or you can delete your adjustments in bulk as well. And Find Disbursement, this is one of the few that actually doesn't have any options. I'm right-clicking, I'm just getting Copy Text Select All, no bulk options. And lastly, in Find Claim Note, again, we have options to set claim status, write-off, payoff, tasks, claims, and quick reports. So now that I've gone over what the grids are and how you can look at your data in them, I'd like to show you some higher level actions that you can do in the grids, such as using the filter editor and conditional formatting. Now, I'm not expecting you guys to be able to walk away from this webinar as a wizard at setting up conditional rules or filters, but I just want you to know what the program can do and what features you have at your fingertips. So first, let's go into utilizing our filter editor. I'm going to go back to our Find Service Line grid. And to access the filter editor, all we need to do is right-click from any of the column headers and click on our Filter Editor option. A Filter Editor dialog box will open, and in here you can enter your criteria. This is useful to enter in a date range or minimum balance requirements. For example, earlier we had queried our data for claims for rendering provider Kevin Roberts. Now we can use this filter editor to eliminate any zero balance claims from this list. So I'm actually going to change I clicked from my M1 field, so that's the field that it populated with right here. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to filter for my rendering provider again. And we've named him Rendering Roberts. And then I'm also going to add in another level, and this is how we can filter out by 2 levels. And I'm going to select a balance. And instead of equals, when I click on that, I have my other options. And I'm going to say the balance is greater than, and enter in my value of 0. Click Apply. And we now see I have a nicely filtered report that does have just Rendering Roberts with claims that have a balance. And again, you can print, export, or save. And again, just a reminder that you can clear your filters by clicking on the X. And I also want to show out a little visual reminder as you're looking at these grids. I have both my balance column and my rendering provider columns filtered. And if you look closely, each of them does have a faint filter icon that is visible on the column. Now, another higher level feature in Premiere is the ability to use conditional formatting. Again, this is available in all grids, just like the filter editor. And conditional formatting gives you the ability to format your grid based on certain data requirements or criteria that you enter. And we can use conditional formatting to alert us to different account statuses, whether it be balances, insurance, or warnings, just for example. Now, for most of my examples, I've been over here using my signed grid. They are nice and large. For this particular example, I'm actually going to go over to the left and use my patient quick access grid. And so what I'm going to set up here is an example that we've actually used here for some of our clients. They wanted to know if a patient has money that is undispersed, meaning that they've collected it, but they haven't applied it to any claims or service lines. So we do have a patient unapplied balance column that is visible here, but sometimes you don't have a lot of space to have a lot of these columns up in the grid. So one thing that we can do is set that conditional format. So I'm going to right click from this column header. I'm going to go down to my conditional formatting option. And from here, I actually want my highlight cell rules. And I'm going to set a custom condition. And from here, again, this window looks a bit similar to my filter editor. And I have my right field here. I'm not going to do equals. I am going to do is greater than and enter my value of 0. So this should show me anytime a patient has an unapplied balance greater than 0, And I want to be notified by a green fill of the row, and I want to apply it to the entire row. And as you see now, my patients over here on the left that have an unapplied balance have been highlighted green. And now what you can do is you can actually pull this column up and out, and your formatting still stays. So now we just have a visual indicator that we have some unapplied money for these patients. So there are many uses for the conditional formatting. If you're working from a balance column, I'm actually going to jump back to my larger grid here. And if I want to do some conditional formats on my balance column, I can do so here. I'm going to use my color scale. Wait, this one. And that just shows higher balances, lower balances. Could also do a data bar. And let's see, clear that. And I want to do just that data bar to give that a better, there we go. Again, different uses for these, and I just wanted to show you a small example of what you can do. Like I said, there are highlighting and filling the rows, color gradients, data bars, icon sets, and you can always manage your different rules as well. You can sort them up or down. Any higher rules will supersede any of the lower ones. If you want to know what rule will apply first, this is how you can control it. And if you ever needed to clear any of the information, again, you can clear your rules. I want to reiterate, doing all this filter editing, custom conditional formatting, all of that is just changing what the program is displaying to you. It's not changing or harming your data in any way. Please feel free to play around with the filter editors and custom conditions. They are very powerful. We find many uses for them. And you can always call us with some questions or some guidance in setting these up. So I've covered a lot of information today on grids. I really just kind of scratched the surface on them. But just to recap, we went over what grids are. They're an Excel-like viewing of your data, how to customize your grids, how to filter and sort, how to access the bulk options, how to save, print, and export from the grids, and lastly, how to set up higher level filters and conditional rules. I'd like to open it up to some questions at this point in time. And one of our first questions here is there a way to sort on 2 or more columns simultaneously other than moving a column to the group by area and then sorting a column under that? So actually that is one of the great ways to sort your data. Clear some of my filters here. You can group by and then filter it that way and sort. The other way is actually more filtering the data, where you can set in 2-level filters. I'd actually like to know what exactly you wanted to sort on, so maybe if you wanted to contact our support, we would be able to go over that with you. Next question is, how was I able to get to the point where I could highlight patients in the Patient tab? I'll go over this quickly again. I think this is really useful. Again, once on the Patient tab, you're just going to right-click and access that conditional formatting. I go to Highlight Cell Rules and Custom Condition. And in here, you can set the criteria for what you would want them to highlight on, what data. And then we had somebody notice some of the column selections in some of our find fields. Let's see here. I think we're on our find patient. I have it set up. That we have created user and created timestamp options. We actually have and for modified. These are available just in the column chooser. And these are if you have user set up, it will tell you the user that did that. As you can see, when I had some of my original data in here, I wasn't using users. That's why these are blank. And the created timestamp and modified timestamps are pulled from your system date of your computer. These should be available for all grids. If they are not, if you notice where one isn't available, please feel free to bring it to our attention, and we can send that to our developers to add in. Next question is if the grids that are created affect all users or if they're just individual. Again, any of our grid selections or customization that we do, changing of the columns, adding of columns, taking away, these are all specific to the user, along with any filters, save layouts, which are buttons down here on the bottom. One thing that is company file wide is if you create a widget that will be available for all users. We have somebody notice in our find patient grid here that we actually have these columns called last seen and last date of service. Pull that one in. There you go. Last seen is actually pulling from our scheduling program, and last date of service will pull from the patient's record. Again, just to reiterate, these are all user specific except for the widgets. These are for everybody to see. This is actually a really good question. Somebody asked if we can save templates of conditional formatting to apply to the other users. At this particular point in time, no. There isn't a way to copy those rules out. What I have suggested that has worked is that you can actually take a screenshot. Actually, I'm in the wrong area. Sorry. You can actually take a screenshot of your rules and save them for a reference for when you're building them for the next user. And so the next question is again on the columns. Somebody noticed that there are some custom columns. Let's see if I have one up. So I'm actually going to go into my find claim and pull one of these columns in. And one of them is right up top here called our another custom field. I have custom date value, custom field, custom number value. These can all be pulled into the grid. And where that is stemming from is actually back up in your program setup. So I'm going to go up to my top ribbon bar under Tools, Program Setup. And it's in here where you can customize your custom fields. I happen to be looking at the claim ones. And so I can rename this. And say, you know what, I want that to be a number because I'm asking about size. Save. And that is on my claim. So if I pull this out and add that back in, just want it to let it refresh. It is now relabeled as family size in alphabetical order. And that's how you can use the custom column headers. Just as a warning too, those are for internal only. None of the custom fields export onto claims, either electronically or if you're printing paper claims. Just real quick there. And we had a couple questions about some users that are using a Mac and they don't have the same options when they're right-clicking on the screen here. This is a nuance of the Mac computer. Our program is set and made for it is a Windows-based program. You can call our support at 877-650-0904 to see if we have any solutions that can help. I do think there are some options. But again, I would call our EZClaim support if you are using a Mac and don't have any right-click options. All right, and if there's no more questions, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. I want to thank everybody for joining today. Like I said, I've just kind of scratched the surface here on grids, but I wanted to at least do a starter session here. If anyone has any other questions, please feel free to contact me or anyone here at EZClaim. We'd be more than happy to help. Everybody will get a recording of this here within the next day or two. And again, I would just like to thank you once again for joining the webinar. Have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you.